The humiliation. The Galactic Empire, a vast and powerful force that spanned hundreds of star systems, looked at Earth with nothing but disdain. To them, humanity was little more than a collection of weak, primitive creatures on a tiny blue planet. They laughed at Earth's technology, its defenses, and its people. How could a species this insignificant possibly stand in our way? They scoffed among themselves. The Empire's leaders, alien generals, and strategists were certain. Conquering Earth would be easy. It was only a matter of time before they would enslave or wipe out every human on the planet. But humans, they believed, were nothing special. Their weapons were outdated, their ships slow and unrefined. The Galactic Empire had conquered hundreds of worlds, many of them much stronger and more technologically advanced than Earth. They couldn't fathom the idea that a small, seemingly defenseless planet could present any challenge. In their eyes, humanity's survival was a fluke, and now it was time to correct that mistake. At the Empire's capital, the high-ranking officials laughed at the idea of humans being anything more than insects to be crushed underfoot. They had spies on Earth, observing its people from afar, and everything they saw only confirmed their belief in humanity's weakness. The Empire's chief general, Xylos, a towering alien with metallic skin and glowing red eyes, made a speech that echoed across the galaxy. "We are the Galactic Empire," he said, "and nothing can stop us. Not even these humans." The general's words sent waves of laughter through the Empire's chambers. "They still think they can stand against us," one of the council members joked. "They haven't even mastered space travel properly. What a joke." But there was one thing the Empire hadn't counted on. One thing they didn't see coming. The humans had more than just their technology and their military force. They had something the Empire could never have anticipated. An unyielding spirit, a determination that had carried them through wars, disasters, and countless challenges. And deep down, even the Empire's leaders knew that no matter how advanced their technology, no matter how powerful their fleets, there was one thing humanity could do better than any other species: fight for survival. Back on Earth, while the Galactic Empire mocked them, the humans had already begun to notice strange things happening. Small things at first. A few unexplained signals picked up by satellite stations. A few strange messages intercepted by intelligence agencies. It wasn't much, but it was enough to raise questions. What was going on? Why were all these unusual activities happening at once? Were they simply coincidence, or was something bigger coming their way? In a hidden military base deep beneath the Earth's surface, the world's most brilliant minds have been working on a project so secret that only a handful of people knew about it. A small group of scientists, military leaders, and engineers had been preparing for something no one else could see coming. They were well aware of the Empire's plans, even if the general public had no clue. For years, humanity had been quietly developing new technologies and strategies, hiding them from prying eyes. The world's governments had known something was coming, and they needed to be ready for it. As the days passed, the signs became clearer. The aliens were coming. They had begun to mobilize, sending ships toward Earth's orbit. But the humans weren't sitting idly by. They had been preparing for this day, even if it meant hiding their true strength until the right moment. In the quiet halls of Earth's secret command center, General Marcus Steele stood in front of a large map. His face was tense, his eyes fixed on the bright red dots, marking the incoming alien fleet. The Empire was on its way, and it was only a matter of time before the first wave of attack hit Earth. But Steele wasn't afraid. He had seen this moment coming for years, and he knew exactly what to do. He turned to his team of officers. "We've been training for this day since we first learned of their existence," he said, his voice calm but firm. "Now it's time to show the Empire that humanity is not as weak as they think." The officers nodded, each one feeling the weight of the responsibility that had been placed upon them. They had spent countless hours preparing for this, but the reality was much different than any training exercise. This was the real thing. The fate of humanity rested on their shoulders. Back in the Empire's war room, General Xylos and his commanders continued to mock Earth's defenses. "There's no need to rush," Xylos said with a smirk. "We'll crush them in no time. Their ships won't even get close to ours. These humans are nothing." His voice was full of confidence, but there was an underlying hint of arrogance. He believed there was no way they could fail. But what Xylos and the Empire's leaders didn't know was that Earth's military had been making preparations for years. Secret projects, unknown to the Empire, were about to be unleashed, and they would soon learn that humans were capable of things they never thought possible. The Empire was about to make a big mistake. They thought they were untouchable. They believed they could wipe humanity off the map without breaking a sweat. But humanity had a secret that would change everything. The moment the first alien ships entered Earth's atmosphere, they would discover the truth. Humans were ready, and the Empire was about to find out just how wrong they were. As the first wave of the invasion began, Earth's people held their breath. The fate of the world was now in motion, and the Galactic Empire had no idea what was coming their way. The invasion begins. As the first wave of the Galactic Empire's fleet breached Earth's atmosphere, the skies above the planet grew dark with the shadow of enormous warships. Each ship was a behemoth, designed to intimidate and crush any resistance that stood in their way. They appeared like black moons drifting slowly toward the surface of the planet, their massive guns glinting in the light of distant stars. The fleet moved with the silent assurance of those who believed victory was inevitable. Back on Earth, the situation was far less serene. People watched in fear and disbelief as the invasion unfolded live on their screens. News outlets reported the alien presence, and within hours, cities across the globe were thrown into chaos. Sirens blared, air raid warnings echoed across loudspeakers, and civilians rushed to shelters. No one knew what was coming, but everyone could feel the weight of it. In military command centers, generals and politicians scrambled to make sense of the situation. Panic spread faster than the news itself. The world's leaders were overwhelmed. Earth wasn't ready for this. It was true that they had some advanced technologies, but nothing on the scale of the Galactic Empire's colossal ships. Humanity had faced invasions before, but never from a force like this. How could Earth hope to defend itself against an empire that had conquered countless planets? Meanwhile, hidden deep below the surface, General Marcus Steele and his team remained calm. They had expected this moment for years, and now it was time to act. As the aliens approached, Steele's eyes scanned the screens in front of him, where data streams flickered rapidly. The first wave of the Empire's ships was entering Earth's atmosphere. "They're coming in hot," one of his officers said with a worried tone, pointing to the incoming fleet on a large digital map. "We've trained for this," General Steele said firmly, his eyes never leaving the screen. "Trust the plan." The humans weren't without their own assets. The quiet project that had been built in secret for years, the project no one outside of the highest military circles knew about, was about to be unveiled. The human resistance had developed technology that could take on the Empire's massive warships. While the Galactic Empire thought they were invading an unprepared planet, humanity's military had been working in the shadows, designing weapons and strategies that could level the playing field. But the aliens didn't know this. To them, Earth was just a primitive world with no real defenses to speak of. When the first shots were fired, they expected an easy victory. Their ships' weapons systems powered up, ready to unleash destruction. Their commanders prepared to send out the first volley against Earth's feeble forces. But there was a problem. As the alien ships prepared to launch their missiles and lasers, they were greeted by an unexpected signal. A strange interference jammed their systems, causing them to momentarily lose their lock on Earth's defenses. The Empire's commanders exchanged confused glances. "What is this?" Xylos demanded, his voice rising. "Our systems are being disrupted. Engage manual targeting." It was too late. Before the Empire's ships could recalibrate, Earth's newly developed defense systems were already in action. A fleet of stealth bombers, equipped with cutting-edge technology, soared out of hidden bases and into the skies. Flying beneath the Empire's radar, they were invisible to the alien ships, their stealth technology making them virtually undetectable. The humans had taken the Empire by surprise. The first shots fired were from Earth, and they struck with precision. One of the lead alien warships, massive and imposing, was hit by a sudden barrage of missiles that tore through its shield. The Empire's warship staggered under the attack, its massive guns firing wildly in a desperate attempt to retaliate. But the humans were too quick, too clever. They had already moved out of range, making it impossible for the aliens to retaliate effectively. General Steele's voice crackled through the radio channels as he issued orders, coordinating the defense. Target their weak points. Go for the engines. We need to cripple their ships before they can regroup. His orders were met with swift action, and Earth's fighters, invisible and nimble, continued their assault. The Empire's ships were slowly being forced to retreat, unable to keep up with the humans' guerrilla tactics. On the ground, the resistance began to mobilize as well. Local militias and military units joined the fight, attacking alien drop zones where the Empire had sent ground forces to subdue humanity. The aliens had expected Earth's armies to collapse in the face of such overwhelming power, but instead they found themselves surrounded by guerrilla fighters, citizens who had taken up arms to defend their homes. It was chaos. The Empire's once confident leaders were beginning to panic as Earth's unexpected resistance grew stronger. The Galactic Empire had never faced anything like this before. Every time they thought they had a victory in their grasp, humanity outmaneuvered them, striking from angles they hadn't anticipated. Silo stood at the helm of his flagship, fuming. "How are they doing this?" he shouted. "These are nothing more than primitive humans. Their tactics are unpredictable." The truth was, the Empire had miscalculated humanity's greatest strength, the human spirit. While the Empire relied on brute force and intimidation, humans had something far more dangerous: ingenuity, resilience, and a desperate will to survive. Earth's forces didn't fight with the advanced technology of the Empire, but they used what they had in creative ways, making up for their lack of advanced weaponry with clever tactics and an unwillingness to back down. The first wave of the invasion hadn't gone as the Empire had planned. It wasn't a complete failure for the aliens, but it was far from the easy victory they had expected. They had underestimated the humans, and now they were starting to realize that Earth wasn't as weak as they had thought. As the battle raged on, the Galactic Empire learned a harsh lesson. Humanity was capable of much more than they had ever imagined, and the galaxy would soon find out just how wrong they had been to mock Earth. The war was just beginning. The turning tide. The first wave of the Galactic Empire's attack had proven far more difficult than anticipated, but the aliens were not ones to give up easily. In the dark expanse of space, the fleet regrouped, preparing for a second strike. Their commanders and generals were no longer laughing. Instead, there was a palpable sense of frustration, of disbelief. They had underestimated the humans, and now they were desperate to regain control. But on Earth, the atmosphere was anything but despair. Humanity's spirit had been ignited, and a new sense of unity began to spread across the world. The initial shock of the invasion was fading, replaced by a determination that could not be easily broken. People who had once lived their lives in fear of alien domination now fought side by side. Soldiers, scientists, civilians, even children, each determined to protect their home and loved ones. General Marcus Steele stood at the front of Earth's central command room, surveying the battlefield across multiple monitors. The alien fleet was regrouping, but so were the humans. Earth's military had adapted quickly, making use of its old weaponry in ways the Empire couldn't predict. It wasn't just the advanced technologies that gave humanity an edge. It was the humans' ability to innovate on the fly, to use whatever was available, and turn it into something deadly. "We've hit them hard, but we need to hit harder," Steele said, his voice steady. Now it's time to show them that they're not just facing one nation. They're facing the will of the entire planet. Let's move in with everything we've got. On the ground, across continents, people began to act. In every corner of Earth, military units, resistance groups, and ordinary citizens who had never seen combat in their lives were ready to fight back. It was a true worldwide effort. The global network that had once been so fractured by politics and history now united under one banner: survival. But the Empire wasn't blind. Their vast intelligence network had begun to piece together the truth. Earth was not as defenseless as they had thought. They had sent scouts to gather information about the human resistance, but the humans were not only hiding their strength, they were using decoys, making it nearly impossible for the aliens to pinpoint their real forces. It was as if the humans were everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Xylos, the Empire's chief general, clenched his fists in fury as he watched Earth's resistance grow stronger with each passing day. "These humans," he muttered, "they adapt faster than anything I've ever seen. They fight like animals, like they have nothing to lose." The realization slowly dawned on him. The Empire was not facing an ordinary enemy. Humanity, with its endless curiosity and tenacity, had turned the tables. No matter how many ships the Empire sent, no matter how much firepower they deployed, the humans found a way to fight back, making them seem almost unpredictable. The Empire was used to intimidating enemies into submission, but Earth was different. The humans weren't afraid. They were enraged. The second wave of the alien invasion began in the early hours of the morning. Xylos had planned a direct assault, hoping to overwhelm Earth's defenses with sheer numbers. His fleet was massive, brimming with ships, soldiers, and weaponry. This time, there would be no room for mistakes. However, what the Empire didn't realize was that Earth's counterattack was already in motion. From deep underground bunkers to secret bases scattered across the planet, humanity's finest engineers and military leaders had been preparing. They had discovered something crucial. The aliens, for all their advanced technology, had one critical weakness. They were too reliant on their high-tech systems. They believed their ships were invincible, but they had overlooked the power of human resourcefulness. It started in the skies, where the humans had secretly retrofitted old military aircraft to carry specialized EMP, electromagnetic pulse bombs. These bombs were designed to knock out the Empire's advanced weaponry, even their shields. With a calculated strike, a fleet of Earth's planes launched their attack, bypassing the alien fleet's sensors, and dove into the heart of the Empire's formation. One by one, the Empire's ships began to malfunction. Shields flickered and failed. Weapons locked up. Communications went silent. The alien fleet fell into chaos as Earth's EMP strikes crippled their systems, leaving the massive ships vulnerable and disoriented. Xylos was furious as his flagship began to shudder, its systems shutting down one by one. He growled, his eyes glowing with fury. Who did this? Who dares interfere with the Empire's might? The humans were doing the unthinkable. They were fighting fire with fire. Earth's space forces, previously thought to be nothing more than a handful of outdated ships, were now a serious threat. The so-called primitive species had turned their ancient tactics into a new weapon, exploiting the Empire's over-reliance on technology. In the chaos, General Steele's voice came through on the comms, clear and confident. Now, while they're disoriented, it's time to strike. Suddenly, a new wave of attack fighters, armed with specialized plasma cannons and laser-guided missiles, surged into the fray. Their fire was precise, relentless. They tore through the now vulnerable alien ships, taking advantage of every weakness the Empire had left exposed. The Empire's ships began to fall, one by one. The tide of the battle had shifted. Xylos stood helpless on his bridge, watching as his fleet was decimated. "This cannot be happening," he whispered, staring at the screen in disbelief. His mind raced, but there was no time to come up with a solution. The Empire's hold on Earth was slipping away, fast. Meanwhile, on Earth's surface, humanity's resolve grew even stronger. What had started as a small group of resistance fighters was now a unified global force. Cities that had once been under siege were now rallying points for counterattacks. Governments and military units that had been fractured were now working as one. Soldiers and civilians were no longer separate entities. They were all part of the same unstoppable force. And the world watched in awe as the Galactic Empire's once mighty fleet crumbled. The humans were not only surviving, they were winning. The tide of battle had turned, and the Empire was learning that the human spirit could never be underestimated. The fight for Earth had just begun. But one thing was certain. The Galactic Empire would never mock humanity again. The Empire's last gamble. The Galactic Empire's once imposing fleet was now a shadow of its former self. Xylos, the Empire's chief general, paced back and forth on his flagship, his thoughts swirling in a storm of fury and disbelief. The humiliating defeat was something he had never imagined. How could this insignificant primitive species bring down an empire that had crushed entire worlds with ease? But even in the darkest moments, the Empire was not one to surrender. Xylos knew that Earth's victory, though impressive, was not the end. It was merely a delay. They had underestimated the humans once. They wouldn't make that mistake again. The Empire's massive war machine had sustained heavy losses, but it was not broken yet. The battle for Earth had only just begun, and the Empire still had one final desperate plan. "We will crush them," Xylos muttered to himself. "We will show them that no one, no matter how many, can defy the might of the Empire." The Empire's leadership was gathering. They had come to the harsh realization that their technology alone could not defeat the humans. The Empire needed a new weapon, something that would force Earth to submit. As the leaders discussed their options, a cold, calculating voice cut through the room. "We have one last option," said High Commander Terran, a ruthless tactician who had served in the Empire for decades. "It's not perfect, but it will bring Earth to its knees." Xylos turned to him, eager for a solution. "What is it?" Terran's eyes gleamed as he spoke. "We unleash the Xenthos bomb." The room fell silent. The Xenthos bomb was an ancient weapon, one that had been banned in the Empire's early days due to its devastating and indiscriminate nature. It had the power to destroy entire planets, reducing them to nothing more than cosmic dust. But it was also highly unpredictable, with a risk that even the Empire's vast resources could not fully control. Xylos' heart skipped a beat. "Are you certain this will work?" Terran nodded. "It will. The humans may have their strength, their ingenuity, but they cannot survive the Xenthos bomb. We will unleash it from the far side of the system, and by the time they realize what's coming, it will be too late." Xylos' mind raced. The idea of using such a weapon filled him with both excitement and dread. If they did this, the humans would be wiped out in an instant. But there was no going back once the bomb was released. Earth would either be destroyed, or the Empire would fall forever. "We do this," Xylos finally said, his voice cold with resolve. "Let's end this now." Meanwhile, on Earth, the humans had no idea what was coming. The victory over the first wave of the Galactic Empire's forces had emboldened them, but there was a nagging sense of uncertainty. What if the Empire wasn't done? What if they were only getting started? General Marcus Steele had been briefed on the success of the initial counterattacks, but he knew that the victory was fleeting. The Empire would not give up so easily. The humans had managed to hit back, but the cost of that victory was high. Earth's military had lost many ships, many soldiers. There was still a long road ahead. The question wasn't whether the humans could win. It was whether they could keep their momentum. "It's not over," Steele said to his team, his voice grave. "We need to keep pushing. The Empire won't stop. They'll hit us harder next time." On the front lines, humanity's forces were making preparations. Earth's fleets, though smaller than the Empire's, were stronger than they had ever been before. They had adapted quickly, using their limited resources to build more weapons, more defenses. The human race was determined to fight for their survival. But in the silence of space, something far more terrifying was brewing. The Xanthos bomb was on its way, an unstoppable force hurtling toward Earth. The Empire's final plan was in motion, and soon, humanity would learn what true devastation was. There would be no time for resistance, no time for strategies. The bomb would strike, and the world would burn. Back on Earth, a group of scientists and engineers had been working tirelessly on a secret project, one they had hoped would never be necessary. They had known that humanity would face greater threats as their presence in the galaxy grew, and they had prepared for the worst. This project was their last hope, but even they were unsure whether it would work. It was called the Phoenix Shield, a global defense system designed to protect Earth from the most catastrophic threats in the universe, a project that had been built in the shadows, a contingency plan to counteract the most dangerous of weapons, and it was about to be tested in the most unimaginable way. General Steele stood before the massive control panel, his eyes scanning the data as it came in. Earth scientists had alerted him that something was coming, a weapon unlike anything they had seen before, a force that could destroy everything they had fought for. But Steele wasn't about to give up. He had seen what humanity could do. He had seen how they turned the tide against impossible odds. And now, they would do it again. "Activate the Phoenix Shield," Steele ordered, his voice calm, but with an edge of determination. Earth's future depends on it. The Phoenix Shield activated with a hum, its energy resonating through the planet's defense systems. A network of satellites, hidden deep within Earth's atmosphere, began to pulse with energy. The entire planet seemed to hold its breath. As the Xanthos bomb sped toward Earth, the humans' final defense was ready, and with it, they would either succeed or perish. The fate of Earth rested on a razor's edge. The countdown had begun. The Phoenix Shield's last stand. As the Xanthos bomb tore through space at unimaginable speed, its path set toward Earth, the tension on the planet grew unbearable. General Marcus Steele stood at the command center, watching the incoming data flash across his screen. His fingers gripped the edge of the console, his face a mask of determination. He had seen humanity's will to fight, and he knew that this time, the battle would come down to the wire. "It's coming," the lead scientist, Dr. Amelia Harris, said, her voice tight with anxiety. "We don't have much time." On the screens, the approaching weapon grew larger with every passing second. The Xanthos bomb was not just a weapon, it was a statement, a symbol of the Empire's power. It was designed to break the spirit of any civilization that dared to stand against them. And now, it was headed straight for Earth. Inside the Phoenix Shield control room, the air crackled with electricity as humanity's greatest defense system powered up. It had been designed as a last line of defense, a force that could withstand even the most devastating of attacks. But as the countdown ticked down, everyone knew that even the Phoenix Shield had limits. "General, the shield's energy reserves are only at 50% capacity," Dr. Harris continued, her voice shaking slightly. "We've never tested it against a force like the Xanthos bomb. If it overloads the system..." Steele cut her off with a steady hand. "We don't have time for if. We stand and fight. Activate the shield." Dr. Harris nodded, her fingers flying over the keyboard. A hum filled the room, a low vibration that made the floor beneath them tremble. The Phoenix Shield, powered by a network of satellites and energy conduits, formed a glowing barrier around the planet. It shimmered with an otherworldly blue light as it came online, ready to take on the Empire's most destructive weapon. Outside the atmosphere, the Xanthos bomb hurtled closer, its surface reflecting the distant stars. It was a massive sphere, riddled with jagged protrusions and ominous energy conduits, designed to unleash a force that could obliterate everything within its blast radius. The countdown continued. 5 seconds, Dr. Harris whispered, her hand hovering over the control panel. In those final moments, time seemed to stretch. Humanity's collective breath held as they watched the bomb approach. Steele could feel his heart pounding in his chest, each beat echoing through the silence. 3, 2, 1, Dr. Harris said, pressing the final key. The Phoenix shield pulsed with blinding light as it fully activated, enveloping Earth in a protective cocoon of energy. The Xanthos bomb collided with the shield's barrier, and for a moment, everything went silent. The bomb's destructive force slammed against the energy field, creating shockwaves that rippled through space. But then, the unthinkable happened. The shield cracked. A piercing, ear-splitting sound filled the control room as the Phoenix shield began to strain under the pressure. Energy fluctuated wildly, and the protective barrier flickered as if it were about to collapse. The shield's integrity is failing, Dr. Harris cried out. The bomb's energy is overwhelming it. Steele's mind raced. They couldn't afford to lose the shield. Earth was at the mercy of the Empire, and this was their only defense. But it was clear that the Phoenix shield was not going to hold much longer. "Give it everything we've got," Steele shouted, his voice fierce with urgency. "Deploy to the secondary energy grid. Now." The secondary grid, designed as a backup, activated instantly, boosting the shield's power output. For a moment, the shield brightened again, pushing the bomb's energy back. But the bomb was relentless, pushing forward, forcing its way toward Earth. The shield's crack grew wider, the light from it flickering as if it were on the verge of collapse. "We're losing it," Dr. Harris cried, but her words were drowned out by the growing roar of energy. In space, the bomb was mere seconds away from its target. Steele's mind flashed to the last option, the last card they could play. He had been hesitant to use it, unsure if humanity was ready. But now, there was no choice. "Activate the emergency countermeasure," Steele ordered. The emergency countermeasure was humanity's ultimate gamble, the Atlas cannon, an enormous gravity-defying weapon hidden deep beneath the surface of the moon, capable of firing a concentrated burst of energy with the power to disrupt even the most powerful galactic weapons. It had never been tested, and no one knew if it would work, but it was their only chance. Dr. Harris hesitated. "But, General, if it doesn't work, we could cause a chain reaction." Steele didn't wait for the rest of her sentence. "Activate it now." A moment later, the ground beneath the moon quaked as the Atlas cannon powered up. A deep hum filled the room as the cannon's energy siphoned massive amounts of power from Earth's grid, focusing it into a single deadly beam. The Atlas cannon fired. A brilliant beam of light shot from the moon. Cutting through space with the intensity of a supernova, it raced toward the Xanthos bomb, just as it was about to breach the shield. The collision was a cataclysmic event. The shockwave blasted through space, sending ripples through the very fabric of the universe. The Xanthos bomb's energy met the Atlas cannon's blast head-on, resulting in a massive explosion of light and power. The shockwave rippled across space, distorting the surrounding stars as the two forces clashed in an apocalyptic display. For a moment, everything was silent. The destruction was so complete that even the shields around Earth seemed to disappear in the wake of the blast. And then the truth was clear. The Xanthos bomb had been destroyed. But at what cost? The Phoenix shield had shattered, the energy grid fried, and the Atlas cannon was disabled. Earth had survived, but they had barely made it. The planet was defenseless now, exposed to the might of the Empire's wrath. Still, humanity had won the first round. Against all odds, they had survived the unthinkable. But the battle wasn't over. The Empire would not back down. They would be coming again, stronger, faster, and more relentless. And this time, humanity would need to be ready. The Empire's retaliation. The roar of the destruction in space had barely subsided before the first wave of Galactic Empire reinforcements arrived. Within hours, a fleet of colossal warships emerged from the depths of hyperspace, their dark, menacing forms blotting out the stars. The Empire, humiliated by the failure of their greatest weapon, was preparing to exact their vengeance on Earth. General Marcus Steele stood before a massive holographic map of the solar system, watching as the Empire's fleet came into view. The brief moment of triumph had passed, and now the cold reality of their situation settled in. Earth had survived the Xenthos bomb, but the Galactic Empire had just begun to show their true might. The victory was temporary, and the war was far from over. "We've got incoming, General," said Commander Ian Hayes, a trusted officer who had fought alongside Steele for years. "The fleet is massive. We need a strategy, and fast." Steele didn't flinch. He knew the odds. They were up against an enemy that had crushed entire civilizations without breaking a sweat. But he also knew something else, something the Empire didn't understand. Humanity's true strength lay not in the weapons they possessed, but in their relentless spirit to fight, adapt, and never surrender. "Prepare the fleets for defense," Steele commanded. "But we need to do more than just fight them off. We need to send a message." Across the globe, nations rallied together, putting aside their differences. The war wasn't just for survival anymore. It was a war for the future. Humanity had been underestimated, mocked, and ridiculed, but now it was time to show the Empire that they had made a grave mistake. The Earth had stood alone for centuries, and it would continue to stand, no matter the odds. As the Empire's warships closed in, the first salvo of laser fire lit up the dark void of space. The Earth's defenses, though formidable, were outclassed in terms of size and power. The Empire's dreadnoughts unleashed a terrifying barrage, hitting Earth's outer defense perimeter with a fury that shook the planet's core. Yet Earth's counterattack was swift and calculated. The recently rebuilt Phoenix Shield, though damaged, was still operational in certain areas, providing a temporary safeguard for major cities. In space, the Earth fleet launched its own counteroffensive, smaller ships darting through space, unleashing precise and deadly strikes. But it wasn't just the firepower that shocked the Empire. It was the unpredictability of human tactics that made their soldiers stand out. Humans fought like no one else, using strategies that were as clever as they were daring. They relied on the knowledge of their environment, exploiting weaknesses that even the most sophisticated Empire warships couldn't foresee. The Empire's commanders, once confident of a quick victory, now found themselves perplexed. Their warships were still powerful, but the Earth fleet had adapted with surprising speed, using tactics that were both strange and effective. They didn't rely solely on their weaponry. They used clever decoys, cunning maneuvers, and a near-reckless willingness to take risks. Humanity was no longer the underdog. They were the wild card. In the midst of the chaos, a dark figure within the Empire's fleet was watching. High Commander Tyrannus, a ruthless and calculating leader, had been personally dispatched to ensure humanity's destruction. His reputation for crushing enemies with cold precision was legendary, and he had been given full control over the Empire's forces in this critical battle. "Bring me Steele," Tyrannus ordered. "I want him alive." The order echoed throughout the fleet, and soon, a specially trained battalion of elite soldiers was dispatched to Earth, their mission clear: capture the human general. As Tyrannus' forces began their descent toward Earth, General Steele prepared for the inevitable. He stood in front of his command room, watching as the Empire's ships swarmed closer. The time had come for him to make the ultimate sacrifice for humanity's future. "I won't let them take our planet," Steele muttered under his breath. "We fight, or we die. But we do it on our terms." He had already made the decision. Steele was going to use the last remaining secret weapon Earth had, the Perseus Project, a top-secret initiative developed in the shadows. It was a weapon that could, theoretically, turn the tide of any battle. But it came with a heavy cost. The Perseus Project was built to be activated only in the most desperate of circumstances, a weapon that required unimaginable energy and had never been tested in combat. Steele had no choice. The Empire was coming in full force, and Earth was running out of options. "Activate Perseus," he said, his voice resolute. Deep beneath Earth's surface, a hidden facility known only to a select few began to hum to life. Massive turbines roared as they gathered energy from deep within the planet, harnessing the power of Earth's very core. The Perseus weapon was ready, its energy signature glowing like a beacon of defiance in the heart of the planet. As the weapon prepared to launch, Steele gave the order to initiate the final phase of humanity's strategy. It was an all-out assault that would pit Earth against the Empire in a way neither side had anticipated. The countdown to humanity's final stand began. "We're about to show them," Steele whispered, "just how wrong they were." Above Earth, the first wave of Tyrannus elite soldiers descended, preparing for the inevitable clash. But humanity wasn't going down without a fight. The war was far from over. And in the face of overwhelming odds, the Earth would rise to meet the challenge. As the Perseus project reached full power, the Empire would soon learn one thing. Humanity wasn't just a species to be feared. It was a species capable of doing the unthinkable. The final defiance. The planet trembled as the countdown reached its final moments. Inside the command center, General Marcus Steele stood alone, watching the planet's fate hang in the balance. The air was thick with tension, and every inch of his mind was focused on what would come next. The Empire thought they had humanity cornered, but they had no idea what they were up against. The Perseus project had never been tested before, and yet, as the power surged, Steele couldn't help but feel a strange sense of calm. The technology was cutting edge, an experimental weapon designed to harness the core of Earth itself. It was Earth's last card, a gamble that could either shift the entire course of the war or spell humanity's doom. It was their final defiance, their ultimate statement to the galaxy that they would never be broken. "Ready," a voice came through his earpiece, breaking the silence. Steele nodded, even though no one could see him. The time had come to fight back. In space, the Empire's fleet loomed larger, their dreadnoughts moving forward with unrelenting precision. Tyrannus' elite forces had already begun their descent to Earth's surface, prepared to capture General Steele and crush whatever resistance was left. They had underestimated humanity at every turn, and now they were going to pay the price. "General Steele, we've got visual on the Empire's main fleet," Commander Ian Hayes reported. "They're closing in on our position, preparing for the final strike. The Perseus activation is our only hope." Steele clenched his fists. This wasn't just a battle for Earth. It was a fight for every human who had ever lived, every person who had ever dared to stand tall in the face of oppression. Humanity had always been underestimated, and this time, they were about to prove the galaxy wrong. "I won't let them take us," Steele whispered to himself. On the surface, as the Empire's soldiers descended, humanity's forces mobilized with a sense of purpose that stunned their enemies. Earth's resistance wasn't just a military force. It was a movement. People from all walks of life stood together, armed with the same resolve, the same fire to defend their homes. The Perseus weapon activated, and the ground began to shake. Massive energy pulses shot up from deep beneath the Earth's crust, sending shockwaves through the air. The atmosphere shimmered as the weapon's energy gathered into a single concentrated force, ready to strike. But then something unexpected happened. The weapon did not unleash its full power immediately. Instead, it began to pulse with a strange rhythm, as if the Earth itself was alive and communicating with the weapon. The Empire's fleet hesitated. They knew something was wrong, but they couldn't understand it. This wasn't just any weapon. They had never encountered anything like it before. In the vast void of space, High Commander Tyrannus watched in disbelief. His fleet had been on the brink of victory, but now it seemed that something had shifted. The humans' resolve, their relentless push, was unlike anything he had faced in all his years as a warrior. This was not the fight he had anticipated. "Prepare for the final strike," he ordered, his voice cold and calculating. "Do not allow this to continue." But before he could give further orders, the Perseus weapon unleashed its first wave of energy. A massive beam of pure energy shot into the sky, cascading across space, and in that moment, everything changed. The beam split the dark void in two, striking with such force that the Empire's lead dreadnought was caught in the blast. The ship's shields flickered and failed before the beam tore through its hull. In a flash, it was gone, reduced to cosmic debris. The entire fleet was thrown into disarray. The remaining ships attempted to retreat, but the Perseus weapon wasn't done. It pulsed again, and another wave of energy shot out, disintegrating anything in its path. The Empire's once imposing armada was now scrambling, their ships falling one by one to the unstoppable power of the Earth. On the surface, the world watched in awe. The skies above Earth lit up with the aftermath of the blast, casting an eerie glow across every city. People gathered, watching, waiting to see if their planet would survive, if humanity could truly defy the might of the Galactic Empire. The weapon wasn't just destroying ships, it was sending a message. Humanity would not bend. Humanity would not break. They would stand, no matter the cost. High Commander Tyrannus, witnessing the devastation of his fleet, knew this was no ordinary force he was up against. But still, he believed that the Empire's power could never truly be overthrown. He gritted his teeth and tightened his grip on the controls. "Retreat," he muttered, his voice laced with frustration. "We have underestimated them, but this will not be the end." Back on Earth, Steele watched as the Empire began to retreat, their forces scattered across the stars. The Perseus weapon had done its job, but the fight was far from over. Humanity had shown its power, but it was only the beginning. The Galactic Empire had been humiliated, but the war was still raging. Earth's defenses would have to hold, and the rest of the galaxy was watching. The question was no longer whether humanity could survive, it was whether they could thrive. The moment the Empire had laughed at humanity, thinking them weak and insignificant, had passed. Now, humanity was standing tall, defiant in the face of the galaxy's greatest power. And in that moment, they knew. The war had only just begun. They had shown the Empire who was in charge. The galaxy would soon learn that the human spirit could not be crushed, and that Earth's fight was far from over. The final defiance had only just begun.